Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Niger Innis Presents the Trump Revolution, a part of the TvAbraham network. Well, folks, we are engaged in war right now with still the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has been a tyrannical dictatorship and a plague on the Middle East, on the international community, and perhaps most importantly, on the great Persian people, also known as the Iranian people, for nearly half a century, nearly all my lifetime, and our guest's lifetime as well. And we want to, I guess, get an update now. I don't know exactly when this is going to be published and when this is going to air. So some of the issues that we discussed today could be a day or two outdated, but it won't be much. And we've got apparently we've got a stretch ahead of us of a good 3 to 6 weeks of this military engagement and attempt to help liberate the people of Iran. Well, I can't think of a better person to have on to discuss this issue and the global implications and give us an update than retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. He served nearly 21 years active duty, including an assignment to the Pentagon on that fateful day, September 11th, 2001. His career included deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine, with missions across 22 countries and 43 states. After military service, Colonel worked in banking, then returned to the Department of Defense as a civil servant, helping to stand up U.S. Cyber Command, which is critical during this engagement, and later serving as NORAD and U.S. Northern Command's senior technical advisor to Fort Meade. Before retiring from the Department of Defense, he supported refugee resettlements, which could become a critical issue during this time, and border defense efforts as a senior advisor to the Department of Homeland Security. He is a married man. Bernie is a father, grandfather, and longtime community volunteer, author, and podcast host. You check all the boxes, Bernie. Thank you for joining us today, Colonel. Let's talk about. I'm going to throw a fastball at you immediately here. There was very much the hope that this engagement would be a within Iran, contained to Iran alone. The Iranians have a different endeavor as their counteroffensive. They wanted to make this a global fight. They have attacked a number of U.S. allies in the region, not just Israel, but UAE, Saudi Arabia, all the way to Cyprus, the Brits' territory, and Cyprus. They've closed the Strait of Hormuz, which, interestingly enough, with all the conflict we've had with them in half a century, they've never closed the Strait of Hormuz, which is where I think a majority of the commercial sea traffic goes through. But they have closed it now. Uh, they have truly, it seems, and this is a question, not a statement. It seems they have made this a global or at least regional war. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, first, Mr. Ennis, thank you for allowing me to be on this program wow, respect to your dad. And I never
Thank
thought
you.
I'd ever meet him or you. So this is absolutely awesome. But as far as the war over there, um, we're still the United States, the big dog on the block. And when you're fighting the bully, you have to go asymmetrical, and that's what they're doing. I would do the same thing, draw other entities into the fight. Launch. They don't have the capability to launch us and to affect us from where they are, but they can affect their neighbors. And you have to remember that there's several military bases, United States military bases in that
Right.
whole area. You mentioned Oman and Kuwait and UAE, all the Gulf states, Jordan, all those things are within range. And also, drones are very, very cheap. Our missiles are running, anywhere from $1 million to $10 million a pop when we launch an AMRAAM or one of the big Navy missiles. But a drone is very, very, very cheap. And so this is where they are as far as defending themselves, and they're angry. They're angry. They got took out very quickly. So technically, we have the advantage. And their advantage is drones, small arms, munitions, and also clandestine human services. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but human intelligence. You go
Sure.
to the Middle East, everybody's speaking Arabic. You don't really know who is
Who's
who.
who? Right.
Yeah.
And
So they can
that
cause a
that's
lot of trouble.
Yep, and that's in regards to human intelligence, but it's also in regards to human terrorism
There you
that
go.
that could take place. And you made a very important point that they can't really impact us with their munitions from over in Iran, but they can impact us potentially through human resources and terrorist potential terrorist activity. I understand Cash Patel has put us on a very high alert security status throughout the United States itself. How much of a danger is a potential terrorism?
Huge. And I say that from someone who not only spent 2 decades in the military, but also I spent 12 years at Fort Meade at NSA. I also spent a significant time at DHS. I've been in three-letter agencies more time than I wasn't in a three-letter agency. So,
The alphabet
um,
soup, if you will.
thank you. I'll just leave it like that. So the thing is that if you remember this past weekend, there was a terrorist attack in Texas, and there
Yes,
was a gentleman who basically took fire at a bar and killed a couple people. And so imagine if there was someone like that in every state. Imagine if there was somebody like that in every county. And they're walking around just like you. They look like me. You can't tell until they've made a mistake. So we have to be on double vigilant guard. And more importantly, at this very time, our Congress, matter of fact, the Department of Homeland Security's director, Kristi Noem, is testifying before Congress today because they're talking about the budget and the Democrats. I don't want to just blame them, but they have voted to restrict the funding at DHS, and the Department of Homeland Security is what protects us at home. So
that's
this
right.
is a very, very poor time for us to be not funding DHS.
And the irony, of course, of what they're doing is that the entity that they want to impact most, which is border security, is already fully funded. They've got more
Yes.
than enough funds to continue to operate. But what they will impact are other critical agencies during this time of war that we're in, that could be problematic for us. They are indirectly giving support and cover to the enemy, and I don't say that lightly.
You are very correct.
That is troubling indeed. Where do you think again, stepping back to the 10,000 feet level, it seems that Iran has made a strategic mistake of attacking their Arab neighbors and hitting the Brits, all of whom have taken a path, well, previous to the hits, have taken the pathway of neutrality. And even in the case of Saudi Arabia, in the case of Britain, not allowing the U.S. to take advantage of their airspace or their infrastructure, military infrastructure facilities, to help us leverage Iran. After they've been hit, though, it seems that the axis has turned a little bit, and it seems that Iran is more isolated, and the U.S. and Israel have more potential partners, even if they're quiet, silent partners.
Everybody loves a winner. Bottom line, at some point, this will come to an end, and the United States and Israel will be on top. If you're one of the countries that is affected, you know at some point the big dog's going to win. So that's where they stand. However, the mullahs in Iran, the people that are in charge, are going to cause as much trouble as they can while they're going down. And also consider this, there's Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims, two different types, and
Right.
they hate each other more than Catholics and Protestants.
Yes, yes, indeed. And in fact, Iran is a majority, although not exclusively, but majority Shia state, Shia population. But they had many proxies, some of whom, like I believe Hamas, are Sunni Muslims. So the problem with terrorism is you step away from your religious affiliations and ideologies, and you just become mixed up into this hodgepodge of terrorist ideology, and mo most of it coming from the Muslim Brotherhood, which of course is still very active and is kind of like the center of gravity and the octopus of terrorism in the region.
They create chaos wherever they go.
And you've been fighting them and fighting that battle against them for decades, and we appreciate your service. One of the reports that I've heard, and you are uniquely qualified to discuss, is the fact that our own stockpile, military stockpile, and Iran's, very specifically, Iran's ballistic missile stockpile, which is formidable or was formidable, that they're kind of running out of steam, and we could potentially be running out of steam as well. Can you talk about the possible impact of running out of, if you will, of stones and boulders to fight?
Well, I don't see our industrial capacity being affected. Bottom line is, yeah, we might be a little bit low, but that's kind of selling wolf took us a little bit. We can ramp up the production machine very, very quickly. The Iranians, not so much. And also think in terms of, you've got Ukraine over there. We've sent a lot of weapons to defend them in their war against Russia, but that stuff can be brought back. We paid for those munitions. And
Good
also,
point.
our allies use the same munitions that we do. So if
Right.
you're talking about Korea, you're talking about New Zealand, you're talking about Australia, all it would take
Japan.
is a
Yeah.
plane flight and we could get what we needed if we had to.
Good point. Good point. And I understand, though, again, this is kind of rumor that the Chinese and the Russians and the North Koreans, the cousins of the South Korea, the aforementioned South Koreans, are supplying Iran with logistical and military infrastructure support. Have you heard that
Uh,
report?
that is pretty much standard with them, but remember, the Russians don't have the industrial base that we do. They're in a war with the Ukraine right now. They've got to do their own thing. So eventually they're going to run out of gas. And when I say
Right.
gas, I mean they're going to run out of logistics. Same thing with the North Koreans. They really don't want to be on the bad side of America. So this is only going to go so far. And also another thing to take into account is that the fuel is going to stop pumping. And what I mean by
Yes.
that is these countries, North Korea, China, some of the places that what we consider to be enemies of ours, they get a lot of fuel from the Middle East, not necessarily from Iran, but from the Gulfy countries. And you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. Well, you can't send air oil tankers through there in a contested zone. So pretty soon the fuel will stop. However, we've got fuel here in the United States. We've got fuel from Venezuela, and pretty soon we'll be having fuel from Iran.
I hear you. I hear you. And from your mouth to God's ears. Uh, in the few minutes we have left, I want to discuss again the global picture, the bigger picture, if you will, as if you can get bigger of war between Iran, Israel, and the United States. But I've heard that part of this goes right to what we were just discussing, which is energy. And the fact that we have pretty much shut off the energy spigot to Russia and Japan from Venezuela. We will probably do the same thing should we get into some type of arrangement and agreement with whomever is going to be in charge of Iran, with shutting off again the spigot of energy to Russia and China. And so that Trump, again, with his improvisational genius, has made this more than just about Iran. This is also about our most formidable competitors, that being Russia and even more so China. What have you heard in that regard?
Well, I think that we are on the same page here. Imagine you're China and you're resource poor, but you're manufacturing rich. You get 50% of your fuel from somewhere in the Middle East, either Iraq, Iran, Gulf states, that sort of thing. So somebody just cut off your spigot by 50%. And I think that's where Trump really is going. Yeah, I know we talk a lot about global hegemony and that sort of thing, but the issue of the day is remember BRICS,
Yes.
Brazil, Russia, India, and China. They were about to start their own currency. All
Yes.
right. That would put
Replacing
us,
the US dollar.
there you go. And if they were to able to pull that off, it would put us in a very, very bad place. So this action, a lot of people aren't looking at it like this, but I see it, and I think you do too by your actions and what you just said. Um, we can have a lot of effect on the global economy by cutting off the spigot in the future, and that's, I think, part of the equation.
That is a key statement that the media is not talking about much at all, but it is a profound strike in the global economy and the global hegemony, which you mentioned before. Well, Colonel, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and discussing these various issues. It should not go unstated that you are also in fact, Project 21 ambassador. I'm one of the founding members of Project 21 and proud to be so. So it's good to be on with a fellow brother in so many so many ways.
Well,
We
I'm
are going.
enjoying this greatly.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we'll have you back on from time to time to give us an update on what's happening on the ground and from the 10,000 feet level. I want to thank you again, Colonel, for joining us. And we're going to sign off like we always do. The words of my aforementioned great father, Roy Innis, who is watching all this from heaven, says, Niger, I want you to always live your life with TLC. And I don't mean tender love and care, although we'll give you plenty of that. I mean truth, logic, and courage. This is Niger Innis signing off. Thank you again, Colonel. We'll have you on again soon.
Thanks for having me.